Welcome.
All right, let's bring in John Stanton, Washington Bureau Chief for BuzzFeed, and Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, professor at the University of Texas, Austin. I want to start with you, John, in reaction to the congressman. You know, it strikes me that the challenge that Democrats have is that there really aren't that many tools at their disposal to just get this done, given the obstruction that we've seen from Republicans and this insistence on offsets, but then this sort of very begrudging sort of attitude about what is an acceptable offset.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, Democrats to a certain degree during the last sort of go-around on this fight didn't do themselves a lot of favors when they ultimately did agree to have offsets for unemployment insurance. By doing that, it sort of set a precedent that Republicans can point to, that moderate Democrats that maybe agree with Republicans can point to, and it makes their position much more difficult in any kind of negotiations between the House and the Senate. I think the other thing is that Republicans used to sort of go along with the unemployment insurance extensions because of the fear that it would hurt them politically. What they found, though, is that, in fact, even at the statewide level with senators, when they have blocked extensions for short or even medium periods of time, they have not really seen very much of political fallout. And I think that makes it much less likely that Democrats can simply get this through.
Right. Well, and as we know, if there's not a political consequence, Vicki, then nothing seems to get done. I want to move on because we also saw Friday House member Eric Cantor put out a memo that we found very interesting, kind of laying out some of their goals for the beginning of the year. And not surprisingly, item number one, not unemployment insurance, but Obamacare, and essentially undermining Obamacare. And he basically suggests, that they're going to hold a vote and look at the security of the website, which, by my recollection, every report that I've seen suggests that the security is actually one of the parts from the beginning that was working quite well. I mean, isn't this a risk to start right out of the block with Obamacare again?
Yeah, it's their New Year's resolution, Karen, but it's not a New Year's resolution that they're actually going to be very successful at. I think they're trying to ride the wave here of public discontent with the NSA and with preoccupations with spying, but it's a whole different ballgame. You're comparing apples to oranges here. What people want to do is they want to see Obamacare working. People want to get their insurance. They want to go on with the year. So I think focusing on this, trying to distract from what Obamacare is supposed to do, get people covered, is not going to help them and might even hurt them. And in terms of unemployment insurance, they have another element that's going to only hurt them. I mean, going into the 2014 election, even though John just said that it doesn't necessarily work against Republicans, but we see a larger narrative about income inequality that Democrats are putting forward to Republicans, and they are not going to just let Republicans who are in these states with high unemployment rates not be peeled off. They are going to try to go for those votes. So folks that need the ACA and need that unemployment insurance are going to be ripe for the picking for Democrats.
Let's hope. All right, I want to read some of the items from and have a little fun with this memo, because having worked in Washington and written talking points myself, some of this language was very interesting. In one part, he says, several of our colleagues have introduced legislation to require prompt notification in the event of a breach involving personal information. I would decode that to say, quote, we're trying to scare people away in order to sabotage the program. That's what that seems to mean to me. One of my other favorites, they talk about robust oversight. Don't you love that? And it says, this spring, we can expect a robust season of oversight. Now, that says to me, get ready. We're going to have more meaningful, wasteful hearings about nothing. And another one that I loved, and continued emphasis on spending reforms. That sounds like more cuts to key safety net programs. And lastly, which reflect our priority of being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. John, to me that says we're going to continue to protect the 1% in everything we do.
Well, yeah, I don't think you're going to see any kind of a major shift in the Republican Party's platform, and I think, but these are the kinds of things that they have had some success politically with, arguing that they are looking to do necessary oversight, for instance, over the Obama administration has turned out pretty well, particularly for House members in their districts. And, again, I think they look at this idea of prompt notification. That plays to people's fears, not just about the government, but also in general about having their credit card information leaked or stolen like Target.
Right.
And, people hear that, they suddenly feel nervous. They say, well, maybe there is a problem I need to worry about. I think these things do help.
But, John, it strikes me that really is about fear-mongering, right? Because the system that the government has is not like Target, right? And I think, I personally broadly think we should have a much bigger conversation about the security of our information, but that's another conversation. But to take an incident that truly has scared and to try to graft that on to Obamacare, I totally get the political calculation, but that feels to me that that is more about scaring people and trying to prevent them from signing up so that we don't see those numbers that the administration is looking for.
To a certain extent, that may be the case, although I do think that they are playing less for worrying about what's going to happen with sign-ups than they are for trying to convince the people that are in the middle, people who maybe have not yet decided where they are politically in the next election, that there are these problems or these potential problems. And those people may look at this, because of the problems with the rollout, as a legitimate question to raise, even if they've already been told by the government, well, everything is okay. Those people may say to themselves, well, maybe they don't know if it's okay.
One other topic, very quickly, Vicki, I want to get to you, is immigration. We saw some reports last week that supposedly this week Speaker John Boehner may try to figure out a way to take up immigration reform in a piecemeal form. Some are suggesting that that is probably window dressing and not really going to happen. Want to get your reaction.
I'm very pessimistic on the issue, Karen. There's nothing I would like more than to see comprehensive immigration reform passed, but we're just too close to the election 2014, and we know that immigration is just one of these issues that parties don't like to touch in an election year, Republicans and Democrats alike. And we also know that there's very strong opposition from Democrats of taking that piecemeal approach. So, quite frankly, Karen, I don't see much coming forward with immigration in this year.
All right. Well, it promises to be another interesting, shall we say, session of Congress. Thank you to John Stanton and Victoria DeFrancesca Soto. And